Good morning. Welcome to Big Oaks Little Farm. I'm Jamie. One of my very favorite things about summer mornings is getting up before the kids, pouring some coffee, and walking in my garden. When I say walking in my garden, I mean pulling weeds in my garden because that's just what ends up happening. So this morning I thought, and it's a beautiful morning. It feels so nice. So I thought I would give you guys a tour this morning. So it's a bit of a mess over here. We have these big oak trees, but it had gotten to where the branches were hanging really low. This one here still needs to be trimmed. So we have kind of a mess over here. Gonna have the boys haul this wood for me today back to the wood pile. My goal over here under these trees is to plant huckleberries because they can grow in the shade. So I have some that I'm hoping will sprout soon. So obviously the garden is never finished. Always tends to have messy areas. I have new areas that I've started this year that I have not grown things before. So we'll just take a look at everything. So these are my tower gardens, which normally I would have planted with lettuces and some vining squash right now. But we had a little mishap with some peafowl and my rock wool starts of plants, and so that didn't happen yet. I will still plant these. As it gets hotter in the summer, lettuces will grow in these longer than they'll grow in the ground, but they do still bolt. So we'll see. I'm still going to plant them, but they may not do great until fall. Back here behind them is a new bed. I had 4 banana peppers and 2 Anaheims in it, but as you can see, the chickens keep coming over here and pecking through everything and have caused problems. I tried ground cherries right there. They have not germinated. Honestly, I think that the chickens probably ate the seeds, so I have some started in the greenhouse. Hopefully they'll grow. So my goal eventually is for this to be a raised bed, to have a little fence here between the AC unit and the garden. This leads into the backyard. My goal eventually is to have all of the outside beds, the border beds, as raised beds to kind of act as a little bit of a fence. So here will be holy basil. Again, the chickens destroyed it, so I'm working on more. I have some chamomile right here, but I'm working on more of that as well. So this will be the entrance into the garden. I have butterfly pea growing here. It has grown a lot in the last week. These I just started on this side, but these I started from seed in the greenhouse. This here is a hollyhock. I had more, but chickens. The problem with the chickens is that the hot wire is not working on the pasture that they normally stay in via hot wire, and so until I get it working, they keep digging things up. That is a lemon basil, which is my very favorite basil in the whole wide world. This bell hanging here, we called her my maybe aunt when I was a kid. My mom's best friend Jimmy gave this to me, and so it is special to me. And Josh, as you saw in a previous video, loves to come ring this bell. Got a hummingbird feeder, which I need to refill. Okay, so then you walk in, and here are a bunch of zinnias that I did not plant. I had zinnias in this general area last year, but they have popped up all over my garden. You will see them all over my garden. Let's see, we'll go this way first. So here is some bush beans. These are dragon's tongue beans. We actually had these with dinner last night. Let me find one to show you. I just found this little guy making a hole in my green bean. Look at him. Naughty little offender. You're going to the pig. Alright, but this is a dragon's tongue bean. They are a bush bean variety, so you don't have to trellis them, but they have these gorgeous flowers. Aren't those so pretty? And then they make these really cool purple and green striped beans. What's also really neat about those beans is that when you cook them, they turn green. That's how you know they're ready. I'm putting this evil little offender in a bucket So when I'm in my garden, I like to always have a bucket with me, because as I pull weeds as I'm walking through, I will throw them in this bucket and feed them to Mr. Smee, who is currently residing next to the garden. So as you see, I'm pulling little weeds as I go. The best medicine for a garden is the presence of the gardener. I saw that quote somewhere one time and thought it was really a neat quote. So my goal right here behind me is to have echinacea here, coneflower. And I had it here last year and I was really hoping it was going to come back. But I think I'm scooted a little further over. I reconfigured my garden this year, so I might actually be sitting on where I had echinacea. So I do have that started in the greenhouse, and we'll just move it out a little later. This is a little raised bed Nate built, and it used to have garlic chives in it in a different area, and I just moved it here. And I'm not using it yet. I think I will use it for lemon balm eventually. There's my mint patch. Those over there are pumpkins that came up just on their own. So this here is my first long trellis area. Currently I've got sugar snap peas growing on it, although it is about to be too hot for them. It's normally not this hot this time of year, but it's been crazy hot this May. But then we had kind of a cool front, and now it's been cooler the last several days, so they really took off and we're doing great. But you see down there, they were turning brown in the heat before it got cooler, but now they look good. So I don't know, I'm gonna leave them as long as I can. On this side, I have more bush beans. These are Royal Burgundy. I really love these. This is the first year I've grown them as well. So they have these really pretty flowers too. Those are the flowers. And then the beans, let's see if I can find one. Oh, there's one. And then the beans are this pretty purple color. And they also turn green when you cook them, which is kind of fun. This is some sweet potato here and here. It's mixed throughout these beans, sweet potato, because I had some holes. And I found a sweet potato growing in my pantry. So over here are all my pole beans on this trellis. More zinnias that volunteered there. So this one, I'm gonna have to look back at my notes as to what I planted where, because I planted some mambombo. I always feel like I'm saying that wrong, and so I think that might be what these are. But I also planted yard long and one other thing, but I believe that these are the yard long. Look at those noodle beans. So I need to look back at my notes and see which is which, so I know how long to let it get before I plant it, because if these are already pretty long. I love a trellis. An arch trellis to walk under. So over here, another zinnia that decided to grace us with its presence. I have two kinds of thyme here. So I have this little creeping thyme, which actually has some little blooms. So cute. I got this creeping thyme that I bought last year, not realizing it was creeping thyme. And I like creeping thyme. It is very pretty, and it has these pretty blooms, and I would love to one day have like a stone, like flagstone patio out here in the garden and have this in between, but it doesn't get very big, and I use thyme in a lot of my seasonings and stuff, and so I ended up getting this one, which is bigger and easier to harvest from. So this one, it takes a lot of the plant to get a decent amount. This one is much better. So then over here I have a rosemary. I had to replant my rosemary because sadly mine didn't make it through the winter. Crazy enough, it made it through the massive freeze we had in, what year was that, 2020? When we had the cold snap, I can't remember. Snow and whatnot for like a week, which is not normal here. And then over here is oregano, which is working on getting bigger. So behind me is okra. It's a lot of okra. I've had people ask why I planted so much and say you're gonna have to be like harvesting it twice a day, because okra really does go from like perfect to, it goes from not ready to perfect to you've waited too long so quickly. You really do have to keep an eye on it and look every day. These will get really tall as well. If you're not familiar with okra plants, they'll get as tall as me. And they like the heat, so they'll grow great all summer. And I might actually, so I have some empty spaces where seeds didn't come up. I might actually add more to this as we go through the summer. So we'll see. But we, number one, eat a lot of okra, but number two, it freezes really well. Because I bought okra from the store this year and was super disappointed. You know how Just Sours at Roots and Refuge always says that store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. Store-bought okra tastes like disappointment as well. Okay, so on this side, I have a row of tomatoes planted, and these marigolds just kind of popped up. I didn't plant any this year. They're from last year and just reseeded and have popped up all over the garden, and I've just left them because they're good. These are actually looking like they have a little leaf curl on this row, and so I'm gonna come out today. I harvested some worm castings yesterday from my worm garden, but I'm gonna come out today and put some stuff on these and see if I can't get them looking a little better, because none of my other tomatoes are looking sad like that. What is looking sad, or was looking sad at least, was my brassicas. Oh, look, a honeybee. Thank you, Mr. Bee. Or Mrs. B, who knows? Most of them are girls. Anywho, we have honeybees, and so I'm always excited to see them over here. Okay, so back to my cabbage. We got a bad infestation of little cabbage worms, and they also ate my broccoli. And y'all, this happened in a matter of like 4 days. This is why you have to come to your garden every day, because I saw that this was starting to happen. I noticed it on a couple of plants, and I was like, oh, I've got to get out there and put something on that. And then I didn't get it done, and this happened. But now I've taken care of it, and now my cabbages are starting to head up. So I'm really excited about that. Not sure if I'm gonna get broccoli. We had a hotter May than normal, so I don't know if my broccoli is gonna do well because it's getting hotter. You can see it's starting here to get little broccoli blooms in there. So hopefully we'll still get some. But the beautiful thing about living in the area that we live in is that we really have 2 garden seasons. So if at first you don't succeed in the spring, try again in the fall. Fall gardening, I think, is actually easier. There's less pests. You have less time before things are like, oh, it's too hot, I'm gonna bolt. I mean, I was still pulling tomatoes in December last year, so we have a very long growing season here. We have some friends that have moved down here from Washington State, and we were just discussing how their garden season, it's like they don't plant until Mother's Day, and then you're pretty much done by September. And that made me really bummed out for you people that live in Washington. Anyway, I guess you must make really big gardens and preserve a lot. So right past the brassicas, we have some zucchini. Tomatoes growing on this random piece of thing I found behind the barn when we moved here. So some more marigolds. I have 4 zucchini plants here, and these are tomatoes behind it that I have trellised on. That cattle panel. More tomatoes on this side. I am growing a lot of tomatoes. See right here, this is an area that needs to be weeded really badly. So I'm going to work on that today. So people ask me why I've planted so many tomatoes, because this row I'm about to walk down is also tomatoes. So you can see tomatoes behind me. So why do I plant so many tomatoes is because I have 6 children. So number 1, that's a lot of people to feed. Number 2, I want to be able, my goal is to be able to make and can enough pizza sauce and spaghetti sauce and tomatoes for chili to last us the whole year, so that I never have to buy that. when I pull my paste tomatoes, I will just cut the tops off of them and put them in a freezer bag and put them in the freezer until I have a good amount to fill the roaster oven and make paste that I then turn into pizza sauce, is what I did last time. I'm gonna sit down for a minute. Oh my gosh, y'all have to see this. I looked down and was like, oh, did I drop a bean? No, that's a slug. Look at that ginormous slug. He is fat and happy and gonna get the heck out of my garden. Yeah, I like played with slugs, and my granddad would threaten to put salt on them, and my sister and I would cry. Oh, look how big he is. I wonder if Smee would eat him. Oh, he feels so gross in my hand. I'm gonna see if Smee will eat him. So I do feel bad killing them, just because I feel bad killing anything. But he cannot live here. Hey Smee, come here. Hey buddy, question, do you like slugs? Hey, do you want this? Do you want this? Oh, so gross. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It's right here. It's right there. Do you see it? Oh, Smee. Right here, buddy. Right there. Do you want that? Oh! Oh, he totally ate it. Oh, so gross. Oh, I hope that was a fast death for you, slug. Oh, that was real gross. Sorry. That was a heck of a way to start out my morning. Oh, my hand feels nasty now. Okay. So back to my tomato discussion. So I did 8 freezer bags full of paste tomatoes. Those 8 bags, I want to say made like 11 pints. And I made it a little bit thicker and then added half a cup of water, and it would get us through the amount of pizzas that we need. And I used my last jar of it last Friday night, so now I have to make from store-bought tomato paste again until my tomatoes are starting to be ready. I am starting to see some little green. Of course, none of these I'm sitting right next to. Oh, there's one back there. But I am starting to see little paste tomatoes. The tomatoes that I have that will be ready first are definitely going to be the snacker, like grape cherry sized tomatoes. I'll show you those in a second. But anyway, that is why I plant so many tomatoes, for inquiring minds that want to know why I have like a bajillion rows of did I say potatoes? Clearly I need more coffee. Tomatoes. Anyway, let's get back to the tour. So you guys have seen my strawberry patch before on the little garden tour Josh gave us as we were putting up this netting. It has definitely kept everyone off of it. So they're covered in diatomaceous earth because Josh saw an ant and took it upon himself to go get the diatomaceous earth and do this. So there we go. He really does not like ants. Okay, so past these, my big old tarragon here. This is back to the beans by this arch trellis and some sweet potato mixed in here. Oh, y'all like my shoes? The chicken shoes. Over here it needs to be weeded again, really badly. But this is my basil patch. We use a lot of basil. I use it in the seasonings that I make and sell at market, but I also make pesto. So I have a lot of basil and then a bunch of little parsley down here. So all of these are pumpkins that just volunteered, including these. In this bucket, I was like, well, I guess I'll just let them grow there, see what happens. I have a little lemon balm right there. I had a big patch of lemon balm last year, but I think it got covered up when I reconfigured my garden, so I'm working on that. And then there's a little bit of bee balm back here. I've started some more in the greenhouse, but haven't brought it out yet. So I have no idea what kind of pumpkins any of these are going to be because they just came out of nowhere. But here's a couple little ones growing. So I think they may be like little, like Jack Be Nimble, or I always say Jack Be Nimble. They're called Little Jacks. All right, Smee Pig. So over here, nothing is very big yet because I was very late in planting this area. So this area was not gardened last year. And this year I decided I was just gonna like plant and let it be wild. So you see Smee like reaches through and tries to eat things. And he's not always in this pasture. He loves to be in this pasture because then he gets garden treats when mommy weeds. I save him, like if I've I save him the weeds that I pull, and I save him, if a tomato falls off or is damaged, he gets to eat it. Are you still snacking on that nasty slug? So gross. Oh, anyway. So I actually do not remember what I planted here. I would have to look back. I planted like different amaranths and millets. In this one, I planted borage. I think these are borage because they look like the borage I have on my porch. I planted sunflowers around this little volunteer here. I mean, honestly, I don't know what some of this stuff is. That is playing the game of, did I plant you or are you a weed? I don't know. I have garlic chives that keep trying to come up over here, even though that's not where I told them to grow. These are a purple corn that someone gave me that I'm excited about. Never grown corn, but I thought it'd be fun. This is Thai basil. Okay, I'm gonna tell you my Thai basil story. I'm gonna sit down for a minute again. Okay, my Thai basil. So last year, my sister ordered, oh, there are tomatoes over here. Hold on, look. See, there's tomatoes there. Let me zoom in. Yay, these are paste tomatoes. Okay, sorry, I get distracted in the garden. Okay, so last year, my sister ordered this pack of all these different kinds of basil seeds, and so she was really sweet and shared them with me. My favorite, that will probably always be my all-time favorite, not necessarily for cooking with, but because it smells amazing, is lemon basil. Oh my gosh. I actually think I'm going to dig one of the volunteers over here up and put it on my porch because it just smells so good. Anyway, one of the seeds was Thai basil. And she's like, I don't really like Thai basil because it has that like anise, like licorice smell to it. But I thought, oh, I'm going to try this anyway. So I planted the Thai basil. And it's very pretty. I'm going to show it to you in just a second, but it's very pretty. It has these pretty purple blooms. The bees absolutely love it. It was the bees' favorite basil. I would come out here and it would just be swarming in bees. I actually filmed a little snippet of the bees all over it on our Facebook page last year. So because the bees loved it so much, I left it for a long time and I let it flower out because the bees loved it. Well, then I never got around to pulling it. And so it is coming up everywhere. It is very pretty. It has these really pretty dark, like burgundy purple flowers. And the bees really do love it. So I was going to grow some, but you guys, nobody needs this much Thai basil in their life. But one basil that I was happy that it reseeded was this pretty little purple basil. I do love purple basil. I just think it's pretty. And it tastes like regular basil, just maybe like a little stronger. And I was letting this grow a little bit, and then I'm going to move probably, there's this one and one other one. I don't know. I've started some seeds in the greenhouse a few days ago, so if those come up, then I'll put those on my porch and leave this one here, but I want it in one of the pots on my porch. So I do have lots of little paste tomatoes starting over here. Pretty soon I'll be making some sauce. My goal here is to trim the bottom limbs and put a little cafe table under here. This is where I would love to have a little flagstone like sitting area eventually. Alright, so if I come back this way, so this row along the fence has not all been cleaned out and planted, as you can see, and the stinking chickens come over here and dig in the straw. And that's why it's all on the path. I feel like every day I come over here and brush it all back. But what I'm doing over here is moving volunteer tomatoes. So I have just random tomatoes popping up all over my garden, and I don't have the heart to kill them. So I just moved them over here. There's a volunteer basil I moved over here too. This I think is a San Marzano. I can tell by the leaves. But I'm just moving them over here. So it's like a little volunteer row. Because volunteer plants just are encouraging. They make you like know that plants can grow here, plants want to grow. So I just love a little volunteer that volunteers to give me food. I just think that's really special. So I'm gonna have a little mystery tomato volunteer row over here. Let's see, I don't think we've gone down this row. So we went on the other side of this. On this side is peppers. Oh, it's finally starting to grow. This is a Puma pepper. I had another one, but it seems to have disappeared. Where was it? Darn, I guess it died. Where did it go? It was taking forever to get big. I think the chickens probably got it too. Darn chickens. But this one is still alive, but it's taking a really long time to get big. I don't know why. This is a new bed, so there is cardboard under here. But I poked a hole in it. I don't know. We'll see. But these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are cayenne pepper that I will use to make crushed red pepper. I love a lemon basil. I mean, some people stop and smell the roses, but I like to stop and huff the basil. Okay, so down here I have a bunch of jalapeno plants. I have like, let's see, there was one here that I bought, this like jumbo mammoth jalapeno, but it was looking a little sad when I bought it, and then it just didn't make it. But these other jalapeno plants, some of them I started from seed, a few I bought. So I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think. So jalapenos, why? Why did I plant so many jalapenos? Well, let me tell you. Because jalapenos are so good. We love jalapenos on everything, Thomas and I. Even some of our kids are like, can I have some? And if I'm like getting toward the end of a jar, I'm like, no, these are mommy's jalapenos. So I will can them. I like to slice them up and pickle them. I will can a bunch of these, and then we use them on sandwiches, in chili, in tacos. I mean, just, we put jalapenos on a lot of things. But I'm so excited to see how many I already have over here. Like, some of these are going to be ready fairly soon. There's so many on this plant. Here's another example of all these volunteer tomatoes I have. I have no idea what kind of tomato that is. According to what I had planted here last year, it was probably a slicer tomato. I did plant some more pepper seeds in my greenhouse just like this week, because for a fall garden in Texas, like peppers take forever, you know that. So for my fall garden peppers, which honestly, like, last year my spring peppers were still alive in the fall, but I figure it can't hurt to start more. So I have more peppers started in the greenhouse. I mean, I say started. I've put the seeds in the pods. Nothing's come up yet, but it's only been 3 days. So then my last 4 spots here, except there's only 3, because the chickens got a couple of them, and I reseeded. So I mean, I re-put a seed in this one like a month ago, and he looks like that. But these are California Wonder Bells, and I can see lots of little pods on this one starting. So I will have lots of bell peppers. Bell peppers I freeze, and I like slice them up and freeze them. Okay, so here is my cucumber and loofah row. I have not grown loofah before, but I'm going to use it in soap, and I'm really excited about it. So this is loofah. Also, I think their leaves are so pretty. So there's 2 loofahs here, okay, but these 2 loofahs I planted at the exact same time. This one is just still tiny, and now that one is all sad. So I may not have loofahs growing on this side, but from what I understand, these are really going to take off and might come all the way down. So we'll see. All right, so cucumber row. So last year, cucumbers were pretty much the only thing that I grew well in my fall garden. I still have pickles from last year. But I learned a lot about pickling. I learned that when it gets really hot, the cucumbers are too bitter. I learned that I like pickling cucumbers better to make pickles than larger cucumbers. I also learned that my favorite cucumber just to munch on is Armenian cucumbers. So I planted accordingly this year. So we actually had our first muncher last night on a salad. This is a muncher. I think I have 2 of those in here. Oh wait, that looks Armenian. Is that the same plant? No, that's the same plant, so it's a muncher. We had our first one of those last night on a salad. There's more coming. And on this side, I'll flip you around here. On this side, this is an Armenian cucumber, I believe. Again, like I'd have to look back at my notes. I don't know, now that's not looking like an Armenian. One of these better be Armenian or I'm gonna be really sad because those are my favorite. But what I planted the most of is pickling cucumbers. So here is one growing here. I love this section. The bees are really loving the cucumbers. So here's one growing, here's one. I'm going to be canning pickles. Oh, that one's up. I'm probably going to pull that one today because I don't like them to get too big. Again, Josh in the Diatomaceous Earth over here. He sees one ant and he's like, cover it in D. I don't know. That's just his thing. This one. Okay, I love these. I'm trying to show you this little guy. When they first start, I'll focus camera. Josh says, is that a cactus? Because they look like little bitty cacti. So we're back to like the okra and the entrance here. So the chamomile I have started. So then this way, this is the one I was saying that the chickens killed my banana peppers. It's a new bed. And this is a new bed. This is all my snacker tomatoes. So Brad's Atomic Grape. I think these are on the cover of the Baker Creek catalog this year. I know they're in the Baker Creek catalog because that is where I got them. But those are Brad's Atomic Grape. I have like 5 of those, I think. And then, oh man, I gotta get over here and trellis this. Oh, I'm sorry, little friend. I will come trellis you in just a minute. These are black cherries, which are my favorite. And on this other side, you see these little guys. It's popcorn. I'm super excited about that. So my kids eat like ridiculous amounts of popcorn. They love popcorn. I don't buy like the pre-made like bag that you put in and pop. I buy popcorn kernels and make them pop them themselves, and they'll put Bessie butter on it. I should explain. Bessie is our cow. And so when we have dairy products made from her milk, the kids are like, oh, is this Bessie milk or is this store milk? Is this Bessie butter or store butter? So I say Bessie butter. But we put Bessie butter on it and it's really yummy. Which now Bessie's not in milk and Stacy is. But I still called it Bessie milk the other day. So over here is my lemongrass. Lemongrass is perennial. It comes back every year. I just trim it down. So this is really getting to where I can start harvesting it for tea. Oh, it smells so good. So we use lemongrass for tea. And then back to my little volunteer row of tomatoes. Alright, so that is my garden so far this year. This is definitely the biggest garden I've had yet. Very excited about it. I've learned a lot about gardening in the last couple of years. Alright, this is a lovely little spot. I don't know that this is my favorite spot, but it is pretty because it has my zinnias. My favorite spot, I think, is always going to be under a trellis, but none of my trellises are growing up really big right now. The one behind me. Last spring was the first time I was trying to do like a big garden, and it was like half the size of this. And I planted all these tomato plants and pepper plants and whatnot, and then we had a really, really wet spring. And pretty much all of it drowned. It all, like, so much of it died. And I just kept replanting tomatoes and kept replanting tomatoes. I have this problem. I have an addiction where I can't throw out a tomato sucker. I pull them off and then I root them, and I have like probably 50 tomato plants on my front porch right now. If you are local and want some tomatoes, let me know. Because I'm not gonna have room to plant them all. I just can't. I can't stop. But anyway, I just love tomatoes. So it was sad, and like everything died, and I had put in all this work, and the year before that, things hardly grew at all. We just had a really small area that we were trying to grow things in, and our soil was just terrible. But I've spent time, like, brought in compost, and we've made compost, and I've put rabbit poo over here and mulched leaves. So last spring's garden was kind of a flop, and I didn't grow much, but I kept trying, and last fall I ended up with so much. I mean, pickles were pretty much the only thing that survived the spring, and not pickles, cucumbers. I made a bunch of pickles with them. But in the fall, I ended up getting like so many tomatoes, and I was still pulling tomatoes in December. It was like if a frost warning would come, I'd come use like every sheet in the house to cover up all the tomatoes, and I finally decided to pull them green and made a bunch of salsa verde. But okra I grew. So like basically okra and cucumbers were the only things that were doing well last year. And some lettuce. I guess it was better than I make it sound, but it was not the garden that I dreamed of at all. But then the fall garden ended up being much better, and people would come over and like be impressed with my garden, and I would be like, really? Because when you see your own work, you see the flaws and you see the failures, where other people are like, wow, that's amazing. So this is definitely so far the best garden I've ever had. So if at first you don't succeed, try again. There's a learning curve. You learn, you improve your soil, it gets better. The other thing that I wanted to say is just encouragement on really anything, on if you're like, living in an apartment wishing that you had a farm, or just in an area where you can't have chickens and things like that. A week or so ago, I had a Facebook memory pop up that said, this is from a time when we were living in Houston, tiny little backyard, houses squeezed together. And I said, every morning when I make my eggs, I dream of moving to the country and having chickens. Like, I just wanted chickens. And that was 10 years ago. So 10 years later, I got my chickens, and chicken math turned into a full farm in no time. So that to say, don't stop dreaming, don't give up. Things take time, and sometimes God's timeline is longer than ours, and that's fine, because things worked out the way they were supposed to work out. And I can just see God's hand in every bit of the timeline of how we ended up here, which would be a really long story about our children that we adopted and this particular piece of property. I'll tell that story sometime, but they would make this video far too long. But all of that to say, don't give up on your dreams, and continue learning. Learn all the things now so that you know what you're doing, because we've had to learn as we go, because we kind of fell into this. So keep learning, learn how to preserve things, go to farmers markets and get produce, and then figure out how to can it and that kind of thing. And maybe find some local farmers that'll let you come work with them and learn things from them. I think that would be really neat. I just hope that was encouraging. Thank you for hanging out with me in the garden this morning. My favorite place to be in the morning. The weather is so gorgeous right now, I don't want to go in, but I'm thinking my kids are probably awake and probably want breakfast. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for hanging out. Happy homesteading.